Hi folks, welcome to a new episode of the Deep Dive series. In this episode, we are going to take a look at cryptocurrencies, blockchains and NFTs. You might have heard about all of the three terms. Cryptocurrencies are booming right now. Everybody is either investing in cryptocurrencies or at least partially knows something about it. Cryptocurrencies are alternative currencies which are supposed to change the way we use money. So right now we use fiat money, fiat currencies or fiat money, which are backed by some government security. So these are the legal tenders which government put out. So the dollar, the Indian rupee, pound, yen, all of these are examples of fiat currencies. And cryptocurrencies are alternative currencies which are supposed to replace the fiat currencies. And the basic fundamental of cryptocurrencies is that it is not owned by anybody. So the US government owns all of the dollars, the Indian government owns all the rupees, but the cryptocurrencies which are uncentralized are not owned by any particular person, a company, a group of people, or any one particular entity. So this gives rise to decentralization because it is not owned by anybody. Decentralization. And the technology which drives cryptocurrencies and also NFTs is blockchain. We are going to look at what blockchain means and its particular uses and why is it booming right now? Why is everybody talking about blockchain? So blockchain is the underlying technology behind both NFTs and cryptocurrencies. Now what NFTs are, these are non-fungible tokens. Non-fungible tokens. In some form, they are similar to cryptocurrencies, but they have some basic differences which make them extra useful in certain situations. Like cryptocurrencies are basically the coins, but NFTs have multiple different uses and not limited only as tokens. So why are we looking at all of these three things? It is because India has the largest number of cryptocurrency owners. The number has risen to 100 million. India ranks 1 among the people who own cryptocurrencies versus USA, which is ranked 2, only has 27 million. So you can see that there are 4 times as many people who own cryptocurrencies in India as a second ranked country. So the number has risen very, very sharply, especially after the COVID pandemic. And in terms of the percentage population owning cryptocurrencies, India is the 5th largest market. So even though India has a huge population, still the percentage population who own cryptocurrencies is huge. And the Indian government is also looking forward to introducing some form of regulation with respect to how these cryptocurrencies are going to exist in India. Either we are going to ban all of these cryptocurrencies because of its high volatility and people can lose a huge amount of money, or we are going to partially regulate in some form or the other. So what's next for the biggest cryptocurrency market? For this, we need to understand what a blockchain actually is. A blockchain is a growing list of data blocks that are linked together. But what we need to understand about blockchain is that it is only a way to store data. A blockchain is a database. What's fundamentally different about blockchain from other forms of databases is the way it stores data. In which the blocks, there are 2 parts, the block and the chain. This is the what part and this is the how part of the whole technology. So what is the block? So the block is essentially a container which holds data. So we write some data in a container which is called a block, and how the blocks are interconnected is one block will have a reference to the last block in the queue. So if this was, let's say, 1729th block, 1728th block, 1727, and the list goes on till 1, and this is going to be the 1730th block in the blockchain. This will have the reference to the last data block, which is the 1729. So each block only has a reference to exactly one other block. So this will have the reference of this block. This will have the 1729th block will have the reference of 1728th block. And What this means is if one block is connected to exactly one other block, it forms a chain. It not a network in which there are multiple connections between blocks. A block can be connected to 2, 3, 4 blocks. In blockchain, a block can only be connected to one other block, and thus it is called a chain, not a network, only a chain. And block is the what part, which is the container which is holding the data, and how part is how the data is connected, how the blocks are connected. What we essentially need to understand is blockchain is only a database. There are 3 features of blockchain which make it different from any other form of data storage. That is decentralization, immutability, and transparency. Decentralization is the lack of ownership, or there is no one particular owner that has full control over how the data is being stored, where the data is stored, when to delete it, if to delete it at all. So there is no owner. No owner. So if it's there in public, it is always going to be there. And everybody who is participating in the blockchain has some partial ownership in that whole blockchain. When I say partial ownership, that does not mean people can deviate from the protocols, because the protocols which are there, protocols on which are governing the blockchain are always going to be there. So all the blocks which are going to be added and the consensus basis are governed by some protocols, and everyone who is a participant of the blockchain is going to abide by these protocols. The second is immutability. So as we can see that a chain of blocks, let's say this is the number 1, number 2, number 3 block. So number 1 block has some data, and this has some other data, and so on and so forth. Whenever a new block is added, it can only add data in the newer block. Let's say this was the 90th block. And so any changes which are to be made on the blockchain can only be made with the addition of a new block, and no block which is already present in the blockchain, no alteration can be done in the data which is already there. So all the data which is there is always going to be there. That makes the data immutable. And the third one is transparency. As we already know that any owner, any participant of the blockchain has full control or a complete copy of the entire blockchain, and thus every transaction or every data point which ever was there in the blockchain, everybody has a copy of that data. So all the data which is present in the blockchain is transparent to all of the users. So what is the difference between a Bitcoin and a blockchain? We already know that Bitcoin is an example of cryptocurrency, and blockchain is a technology. So Bitcoin is the value which we are deriving from this technology. This is the underlying technology behind the blockchain, behind cryptocurrencies, not just Bitcoin, but all form of cryptocurrency. Now let's take a look at the history of blockchain, Bitcoin, and other cryptocurrencies. In 1982, first blockchain-like protocol is published. So even though the protocol was not exactly the same as the blockchains used right now, but it paved the way for the technology. And it took another 26 years for somebody to take that idea and drive some value out of it. So in 2008, a person or a group of people going by the name Satoshi Nakamoto. So this is not a real name, this is only a pseudonym. So they decided to remain nameless, and they put forward the idea of Bitcoin. And it took another 1 year for creation of a marketplace of sorts for the Bitcoin. In 2014, even big companies like Microsoft started accepting Bitcoin as a payment method. So this marked a very vital point for Bitcoin, because before this and before some other major companies started accepting Bitcoin, it was always, Bitcoin always had its image intertwined with illegal or at least less than legal activities. So when more and more people started hearing about this, it kind of grew in value, and just because of the perceived value, companies started accepting Bitcoin as a form of payment as well. In 2017, One Bitcoin equaled $10,000, and in 2021, the last year, around November, there was a peak of 67,500 US dollars. So this marked a very big and very crucial point in the history of Bitcoin, because even though it started in 2008, it only took about 23 years to go from a fraction of a dollar up till 67,500. So a lot of people started investing in Bitcoin and saw this not just as a currency but as a form of investment. So they considered Bitcoin as an asset rather than currency. So let's take a look at cryptocurrency ecosystem with an example of blockchain, with an example of Bitcoin rather. But before that, we need to understand why more participants lead to more security. So this is because all the participants who are in the ecosystem are going to have a copy of the entire blockchain. So if there are 4 people, 1, 2, 3, and 4, these are going to have the exact copy of the entire blockchain, and whatever the new blocks are going to be added, everybody is going to add the same block onto their blockchain. So somebody is going to validate the newest block, and everybody will copy the newest block onto the last part of their blockchain. So let's say ki 2 was the malicious one and added some data which is not approved by everybody. So this has the last block in the blockchain of number 2 has some data which is not common between all of the above. So there is the concept of consensus, which means whatever the majority is saying will hold true. So everybody will disregard this blockchain, the copy owned by number 2, and thus even though there was an attempt to alter the actual not the Bitcoin but the blockchain, but whatever the rest of the people are saying will hold true. Whatever the majority is saying will hold true, and such attacks on the blockchain are averted. So as we can see that the number of participants as they grow, let's say there are 100 participants in the whole blockchain, it will be easier to discern between the people who are having a falsified copy of the blockchain. So the number of participants directly correlates to more security. So the higher the number of participants, it is the more secure the whole blockchain network is. And just because there are more participants in the loop, there is more perceived value because of the security as well. If anybody invests their money into this blockchain, it is going to be secure. It is not going to go anywhere. Just because of that, the perceived value of the whole technology increases, which in turn draws more attention from people, and more participants come in. So this is the entire cryptocurrency ecosystem, where more and more participants join in, which increases the security, and in turn the Bitcoin value also increases, which goes again in cycle that it increases more participants. So the features of cryptocurrency, you'll see that these are almost the same as the features of blockchain. These are also write-only, immutable, transparent data storage, as we saw in the cryptocurrency network. The features of cryptocurrencies are almost the same as the blockchain, because all the features are inherited just because of the underlying technology that is the blockchain. It is write-only, immutable, transparent data storage. We already saw that it is write-only. That also brings in the immutability, which is whatever the data is already added cannot be altered, and new data can only be added, and past data cannot be altered in any form. So that makes it write-only and immutable. And just because everybody who is a participant of the blockchain network has the same exact copy of the entire blockchain, so all the data which is present is there with everybody. So that makes it transparent as well. There is no one owner. We already saw that in blockchain as well. So with cryptocurrencies as well. But All cryptocurrencies need not be decentralized. There are some centralized cryptocurrencies as well, either in the form of the government regulated cryptocurrencies, like the US government introduced a cryptocurrencies based on the dollar, and the Indian government, the RBI is also looking forward to introduce a cryptocurrency of its own. So these are going to be not non-decentralized cryptocurrencies. So this is one feature which is very flexible. So the centralization part need not be true for every cryptocurrency, but majority of the cryptocurrencies which you are going to see, which are being traded and which are talked about by everybody, are decentralized. So there is no one owner, and there is no need for intermediaries. It is consistent across all the participants. So just because everybody has the same copy, the entire blockchain is consistent between all participants, and it is resistant against malicious participants. Just like we saw, more people add more security to the entire network, and as the cryptocurrency network grows, it becomes more and more resistant toward malicious participants, and it is open to everyone. So there is no foundation on who you have to be, how much money would you need to be a participant of the network. You just need your basic wallet, and you need a system to be a part of the blockchain network. Consensus is also one important feature of blockchain. Consensus is basically the general agreement. So whatever the majority is saying will hold more value from the minority. So that means if there is a conflict between the last added block onto the blockchain, whatever the majority says with respect to the validity of the block will hold true. So that is the term consensus, and it's applied in every kind of blockchain. Cryptocurrency also cut the middleman, because we right now needs banks to keep a tab of how much money individual person has. But when we move towards the cryptocurrency network, everybody has the same details about everybody else. So even though your name might not show up to somebody, if your name is ABC, somebody might not be able to know your the amount which is there in your bank account, but your account and the money you have in your account in your wallet is always going to be the same. You cannot alter this number, and everybody will have access to validating if you have that money. So before you are sending somebody, let's say 1,000 bitcoins out of thin air, the system will determine whether you have 1,000 bitcoins or not, and that is done without the need of a centralized authority. So essentially, with respect to cryptocurrencies, we are cutting the middleman out of the equation, and thus banks and other government agencies which keep track of money are under threat, because we are undermining their value. So there are a lot of challenges also faced by cryptocurrencies. One of them is energy consumption. So this has been in the news in the recent times. What this thing means is, a lot of people are doing the exact same thing which the others are doing. So when we talk about Bitcoin, whenever a new block is added onto the blockchain, there are some miners which are actually mining the Bitcoin, and what they are essentially doing is they are validating the transactions. A lot of miners are in the race to validate the block first. So around every 10 minutes, a block gets added onto the Bitcoin blockchain, and there is a race going on for the 10-minute interval, where any miner who is trying to mine a Bitcoin is essentially trying to validate the transaction, and whoever does this the first will get some reward. So this is how Bitcoins are mined. There are miners which are trying to validate the blocks, and in return they get some Bitcoins. So a lot of miners are there and validating the same block. That does not make sense at all, because a lot of the work, because if there is only one winner and let's say 1 million losers, the power consumed or the power spent by the million people who did not get any value from this whole process lose their money, and instead the energy consumed during this entire process is also lost. So a lot of work is being done by people which is not necessarily required, and thus it poses a problem of energy consumption as well. So to combat this problem, there is an different form of cryptocurrency which is called Ethereum, which works on proof of stake instead of proof of work. So what we discussed about with respect to Bitcoin is the proof of work. So in this concept, as we saw, that a miner is paid in Bitcoins when he submits a proof of work. So the work is being done on the blockchain, adding a new block, and he is rewarded for this work, and this is called the proof of work. In the Ethereum network, a new block is added every 10 to 15 seconds. So the block time is also different from Bitcoin. During this 10 to 15 seconds, a randomly chosen group of individuals is selected, and these individuals are the ones who are going to be validating the newer blocks, or actually the one new block. For every other block, the people who are going to validate the blocks is going to be different and are totally going to be random. So in this way, there are only a set number of people who are working on the Ethereum blockchain at a time. Versus in Bitcoin, there are a lot of people who are doing the work at the same time. So this saves a lot of energy in the Ethereum network, wherein only a handful number of people are working on the blockchain. So there is also an aspect of money laundering. Just because there is no paper trail and there is no central authority keeping tab of whatever the transactions that have happened, there have been many cases of money laundering where people have converted their money or transferred some goods, converted them into cryptocurrencies, send it to the final destination, and there is no paper trail involved. So a lot of money laundering has been happening, but that is also the case with fiat monies, and people also find ways. So so money laundering is not limited to cryptocurrencies only, but it also found its way into cryptocurrencies. And there is also the challenge of personal responsibility to gauge cryptocurrencies in a very, very rational way. As more and more participants enter the cryptocurrency markets, the value of the cryptocurrency also increases, and there is a huge volatility involved when it comes to the cryptocurrencies market. So there should be one layer of reason behind why people are investing in cryptocurrencies, what is their driving factor, how they are looking at the cryptocurrencies, and are they looking at cryptocurrencies only for the currency value of it, or is it for the asset value of it? Now, these are some countries where cryptocurrencies are banned. China was the most recent one, due to which a lot of fluctuation happened in terms of the value of the Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And there are some countries like El Salvador, which have replaced their fiat currency with Bitcoin altogether. So there are countries on both polar sides of cryptocurrencies.
Hush.